death. I'm out here breathing deep, while the rest waste their breath. No rest for the wicked. I'm wide-eyed and driven in the silence of the night. My thoughts stay vivid.
Ink spills from the pen like a river through my veins, flooding every page with the echoes of the pain. I'm a wordsmith with a purpose, carving truths from the lies. When the world's counting sheep, I'm counting how time flies. Insomniac mind, every second is a weapon. In the war against the clock, I'm always stepping. Sleep's a cousin I disown, no comfort in the night, just a canvas for my thoughts painted in the twilight.
The globus never sleeps, 'cause sleep is the cousin of death. I'm out here breathing deep, while the rest waste their breath. No rest for the wicked. I'm wide-eyed and driven in the silence of the night. My thoughts stay vivid.
Dreams are for the sleeping, but I'm living in the real. Grinding through the dark where the truth is revealed. Every thought a spark, every line a fuse. I'm a torch in the night, no time left to lose. The world's spinning slow, but my mind's in a race. Chasing every moment, there's no time to waste. Eyes like a hawk, seeing every crack and crevice. In this waking life, every second is precious. I keep my thoughts sharp like a blade in the night. While they're lost in their dreams, I'm honing my sight. Sleep is a cousin I've learned to forget, 'cause the globus never sleeps, there's no time to rest yet.
The globus never sleeps, 'cause sleep is the cousin of death. I'm out here breathing deep, while the rest waste their breath. No rest for the wicked. Wide-eyed and driven in the silence of the night. My thoughts stay vivid.
Soper Show.
What up, Twitch? What up, Cosmic? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in the chatterino? It's your boy. It's your boy. And your boy is back with his boy, Dumpy. You want snacks? You feeling snacks? You want scritches, I know. I'm one of those people who like my nails tend to grow out a bit before I trim them, you know? And this is when they're when the cats are the most happy, right before I trim my nails. Cuz you get the best scritches. You want snacks? Little breakfast snack time. Let's find out. It's been hit or miss with the snacks lately, so oh yeah, we're liking the snacks today. Maybe we're not liking the snacks. I don't know what's going on, man. What's going on? You want to come sit? I don't even know what's going on with you. Do you want variety? Am I not getting you enough variety in your snacks? Is that where we're at? All right. Actually, let me check on something real quick. What up, Digital? Yeah, I mean it's fair, right? It's fair. I just it wasn't a problem, and now it's a problem. You know what I mean? Day off, nice, nice. You got a day off, and you're spending a portion of it with me. Respect. All right, so we've got just under 3 days left on Legend of Mushroom. So that's cool. I think they're actually giving out a gift sub if I'm reading this correctly. So somebody's gonna get a gift sub from Legend of Mushroom. And isn't that nice? Yeah, one gifted sub. So that'd be cool. Not sure when that's gonna happen, but that'll be the first time that occurred. Excuse me. And before we get to our regularly scheduled content, Liz the developer, Liz the developer is who we watched before. And I did pre-watch this video because it was sent to me by Kel Thickness. So thank them for that. Back with it can be very frustrating, doing this kind of thing and feeling like, kind of like on an island. I know some of you, like Larry, feel the same way. We're not alone. Hold on. From the top.
You want to know what the biggest problem with AI is? The one that actually keeps me up at night? It's not the environmental cost. That's been debunked. It's not the copyright problems. Those lawsuits are funded by the RIAA and Disney. No, it is the rise of fascism, y'all. That is the actual problem with AI. Authoritarian bureaucracies never had the manpower to actually execute on the dream of fascism. Perfect monitoring of all civilians for deviance. But surveillance capitalism has handed it to them on a silver platter. You know who invented AI? Oh, it was the communists. Because they were not worried about, like, the stealing of labor because the reduction of labor benefited everyone. No, the problem is that it can monitor all your conversations. The problem is perfect vocal transcription with no people involved. The problem is now you have an analyst that can sort through all of the gigabytes of text data that every single sting operation or wiretapping operation collects on a person and all of the people that they know and all of the people that they know. The main thing that kept you safe from the dragnet was that there was too much stuff in the dragnet to find everything that was, like, of interest. And you could have slang or code words that, through context, people could understand what you were talking about, like cute winter boots. AIs are good at detecting what cute winter boots is about, though. That's the real problem with AI. The bad guys are using it, and they've tricked you into not using it because they want you to think it's about your morals and you're doing the right thing. Meanwhile, they'll outproduce you, is the thing. That's the real danger, okay? Is that the fascists will outproduce you and you'll think that you're doing the right thing because you don't care about the outcomes. You care about whether or not you're doing virtue signaling properly. And that's the one thing that they have right about us leftists, is that you care more about your ego than you care about praxis. You win or boost. The bad guys are using it, and they've tricked you into not using it because they want you to think it's about your morals and you're doing the right thing. Meanwhile, they'll outproduce you, is the thing. That's the real danger, okay? Is that the fascists will outproduce you and you'll think that you're doing the right thing because you don't care about the outcomes. You care about whether or not you're doing virtue signaling properly. And that's the one thing that they have right about us leftists, is that you care more about your ego than you care about praxis.
Io Joe, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, welcome in. Is Praxis her god? I have no idea what her god is. I just know that Liz is a developer, works in AI, has way more certifications than I do, but we say the same things. Praise Praxis. All right, let's do the fucking news. AI chatbots mirror a human brain disorder. Researchers have found a surprising similarity between the way large language models like ChatGPT process information and how the brains of people with Wernicke's aphasia function. In both cases, fluent but often incoherent output is produced, suggesting rigid internal processing patterns that can distort meanings. What up, Hydron? It's not paranoia. It's not paranoia, it's accurate. It's 100% accurate. That's the thing, Cosmic. And this is my argument, right? Like from the jump, the fact that a lot of people have abandoned the battlefield in order to, they don't understand what they're talking about. They're misrepresenting and spreading a certain kind of misinformation, and they tend to find things that agree with what they're saying, so they're doing confirmation bias, and then they convince other people to not use the tools, right? To abandon the data set to whoever is going to use the tools, because the tools will be used. The tools will absolutely be used, and they will be used by people who care more about profit than they do about people. Agents, chatbots, and other tools based on artificial intelligence are AI is not Big Brother. Big Brother is the humans who will use AI. Right? It's one of the critiques, and I'm sure it's one of the critiques that you would make about China and what they are going to do with AI, right? The surveillance state that, as far as I can tell, exists within China, right? They have a surveillance state, which, don't get me wrong, the UK has a surveillance state, the United States has a surveillance state. Pretty much everyone who has a state has some kind of surveillance state within it. That's just part of having a state, is monitoring for threats. No, you wouldn't need to pipe all AI traffic through the database. You just need a way to tap in, like this, right? I am speaking, so everything I say could be fed through a machine, right? Every one of you who chats in the chat, your chats go through Amazon. Amazon could run that through a machine. I guarantee you that they are. I guarantee you that somewhere in the TOS, it says that Amazon has the right to take your chats and use them to help train the LLMs, right? And the same, I would say, would be true of all the streams, right? Like, that is a huge database just waiting to happen for multimodal AI use. Yeah, no, absolutely, Cosmic, and that's what she was talking about. She wasn't talking about the AI in and of itself. She was talking about the people using AI, right? And that's why I I highly recommend that y'all are learning to use the tools so that you can compete. Many years ago, the government ordered all net service providers to give them a backdoor into the traffic. That's distinctly possible. That sounds similar to what what's his name was warning us about before he ran to Russia, or yeah, Russia. Right. So is Big Brother listening to Alexa? Like, is the surveillance state, is the national security infrastructure listening to everything at this point in time? Probably not, right? Probably not. But is Amazon collecting all your Alexa information, that if the FBI or one of the other alphabets wanted some information on a specific person, they could just ask? Like, look at the relationship between Ring Doorbell and various law enforcement agencies, right? That exists. And they actually have it now where Ring Doorbell, you can like enter a volunteer program to have all your Ring Doorbell footage included in a database that's used uh, for crime prevention, right? So that's the thing, is that Americans will voluntarily opt in to the surveillance state in the name of protection. It's interesting. At work, they want us building AI, but don't give us the same access to AI that they want us to build for the business. It's just silly, right? It's just silly, Digital. Right. So, like I said, Big Brother would need access to Amazon's Alexa database. They would just ask for it on a need basis, right? The same thing they did with Twitter, right? That happened. where, the government was able to make requests of Twitter to provide them with particular pieces of information, or, to, like, some of what they were doing was trying to control mis and disinformation, which is always going to be a concern. I think we need to, they could say no, but what's the incentive for them to say no? Right? That's the key. Remember when it was Google or Microsoft that put out the 3D model of that church based on thousands of photos? Imagine having global video feed, if not 100% accurate, but maybe 95% approximated, based on stitching together all the cloud feeds from the doorbells and city cams or whatever. Absolutely. NVIDIA and Google, at least, probably others, are working on digital twins of the world, right? And how do you do that? How many images and videos does Google already have from people, or from them providing us the Google Street View, right? It's a tool that we use, but it's also a huge, database of friggin' what the world looks like, and then you can just fill in the blanks, and then add in stuff like, okay, so you have an image of a house and its location in the world through Google Street Maps, and then you add in stuff like what you call it, the like Redfin or whatever the other one is. It begins with a T. Name escapes me at the moment, but the real estate websites, right? Real estate websites big on taking pictures of houses, right? Because they're trying to sell them, and part of selling the house is inside outside photos. So now you have a map not only of the outside of the house and its place in the world, but the inside of the house, and round and round we go. Incentive is assuring their customers that their naked photos are secure. Sure. But if the incentive on the other side is a particularly favorable relationship with, a particular government or what have you, then that's the counter incentive, right? So what do they value more, and why would they value it more? What up, Michael? Supposedly you can opt out of the Amazon Sidewalk program, but I would imagine that law enforcement could compel Amazon to hand over the data through a warrant if necessary. Yeah, and that's why we need, those strong, protections for people against what is something that law enforcement can do without a warrant, right? Like Stingray and, the various requests that are made. So yeah. To the news. Agents, chatbots, and other tools based on artificial intelligence are increasingly used in everyday life by many. So-called large language model-based agents, such as ChatGPT and Llama, have become impressively fluent in the responses they form, but quite often provide convincing yet incorrect information. Researchers at the University of Tokyo draw parallels between this issue and a human language disorder known as aphasia, where sufferers may speak fluently but make meaningless or hard to understand statements. The similarity could point toward better forms of diagnosis for aphasia and even provide insights to AI engineers seeking to improve LLM based agents. Another strong argument for cross disciplinary teams when it comes to developing artificial intelligence. This article was written by a human being, but the use of text generating AI is on the rise in many areas. As more and more people come to use and rely on such things, there's an ever increasing need, here's an incentive, to make sure that these tools deliver correct and coherent responses and information to their users. Many familiar tools, including ChatGPT and others, appear very fluent in whatever they deliver, but their responses cannot always be relied upon due to the amount of essentially made up content they produce and the amount of made up content that already exists on the web that was included in their databases, right? That's another portion of the entire thing. The glue on pizza was not a hallucination that the AI made up. It's a reference to a particular fact that it found on Reddit, right? It had a reference. It's just the reference was inaccurate. If the user is not sufficiently knowledgeable about the subject area in question, they can easily fall foul of assuming this information is right, especially given the high degree of confidence ChatGPT and others show, including people, right? Like, this is one of those things where we assign a certain authority to a particular person, and depending on who we are, which people, but we all do this. Now, if I assign authority to a weatherman, there's a high degree of confidence that the weatherman is correct, right? Like, because he is wanting to be correct, he's providing you with data, he's showing you maps, he's doing the thing, so on and so forth. Ryan Hall, y'all. So we feel comfortable assigning authority to a Ryan Hall in spite of our not really being able to confirm any of the shit that comes out of Ryan's mouth. Right? The only way I can confirm if Ryan Hall is right about the weather is going outside and seeing if it's raining. But I don't know enough about meteorology to question the nature of what he does outside his far. You're talking about Noah, yeah. And then there's the Noah issue, and like, well, I'm not going to make you do anything. You choose your level of participation. You can't fail to notice how some AI systems can appear articulate while still producing often significant errors. But what struck my team and I was the similarity between this behavior and that of people with Wernicke's aphasia, where such people speak fluently but don't always make much sense. It prompted us to wonder if the internal mechanisms of these AI systems could be similar to those of the human brain affected by aphasia, and if so, what the implications might be. To explore this idea, the team used a method called energy landscape analysis, technique originally developed by physicists seeking to visualize energy states in magnetic metal, but which was recently adapted for neuroscience. They examined patterns in resting brain activity from people with different types of aphasia and compared them to internal data from several publicly available LLMs. And in their analysis, the team did discover some striking similarities. The way digital information or signals are moved around and manipulated within these AI models closely matches the way some brain signals behaved in the brains of people with certain types of aphasia, including Wernicke's aphasia. You can imagine the energy landscape as a surface with a ball on it, where when there's a curve, the ball may roll down and come to rest, but when the curves are shallow, the ball may roll around chaotically. In aphasia, the ball represents the person's brain state. In LLMs, it represents the continuing signal pattern in the model based on its instructions and internal data set. The research has several implications. For neuroscience, it offers a possible new way to classify and monitor conditions like aphasia based on internal brain activity rather than just external symptoms. For AI, it could lead to better diagnostic tools that help engineers improve the architecture of AI systems from the inside out. Though, despite the similarities the researchers discover, they urge caution not to make too many assumptions. We're not saying chatbots have brain damage, but they may be locked into a kind of rigid internal pattern that limits how flexibly they can draw and store knowledge, just like in receptive aphasia. Whether future models can overcome this limitation remains to be seen, but understanding these internal parallels may be the first step towards smarter, more trustworthy AI. Good for them. Love to see it. Oh, hey, you, Liz. Okay, so one of the things that we talked about, and it goes all the way back to the initial idea for the conversation I was supposed to have with Dr. Yasmin that we never actually got around to because we, tended to talk more about copyright and etc. Is the idea of language, right? And we have, as humans, assigned an arbitrary line of demarcation between the sounds that animals make and the language that people make. We assigned what has the requirements to satisfy language, and therefore we do it, animals don't. Generally speaking, is the agreed on situation. However, this may not, in fact, be the case. This is also a thing that relates to, our perception of intelligence as a word and what it means, and as it relates to what artificial intelligence does. The word reasoning, the word language, the word intelligence, all these things are fairly arbitrary, and we decided what's in and what's out of the group rather than having some objective decision making mechanism to support that. So this is from Warwick, which is out of the UK. Warwick research finds communication complexity in orangutans thought to be uniquely human. In groundbreaking work from the University of Warwick, researchers have found that while the orangutans vocalize with a layered complexity previously thought to be unique to human communication, suggesting a much older evolutionary origin. Consider the phrase, "This is the dog that chased the cat that killed the rat that ate the cheese." It is a simple sentence comprised of repeated verb-noun phrases. Chase the cat, ate the cheese, and is an example of layered complexity called recursion. Recursion is the repetition of language elements in an embedded way so that they form a comprehensible thought phrase. Like Russian nesting dolls, the power of recursion means that we can combine a finite set of elements to deliver an infinite array of messages with increasing complexity. It is widely believed that nested communication is a unique feature of human language, allowing us to greater complexity of thought, but research from the University of Warwick, published today in Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences, tells a different story. When analyzing the vocal data of alarm calls from female Sumatran orangutans, we found that the rhythmic structure of the orangutan sounds were self-embedded across 3 levels, an impressive third-order recursion. Finding this feature in orangutan communication challenges the idea that recursion is uniquely human. The 3-layered recursive structure of the orangutan's calls were as follows. Individual sounds made by an orangutan occurred in small combinations. The first layer, right here. These combinations could be grouped into larger bouts, second layer. And these bouts could be grouped into an even larger series, third layer, all within a regular rhythm at each level. Two ends. Did this article just state that recursion is human, or specifically with recursion language? Recursion in language. It sounds like it's recursion in language. It's the arbitrary nature. We as humans decide what is and is not language. Obviously, whatever we do is language, and the long held position of the majority of people is that what animals do, no matter how complex it might sound, is not actually language. It is something else. It is communication. It is not language, right? Well, that's the thing, Digital. It's another log on the fire, right? Language definition. Principal method of human communication, consisting of words used in a structured and conventional way and conveyed by speech, writing, or gesture. A system of communication used by a particular country or community, right? Yes, language is a way to transfer data from one brain to another, right? But what defines the difference between, so here I think this is a better, not definition. Language versus communication. This is the one. So while both language and communication are essential for human interaction, they are not the same thing. Communication is the broader concept of conveying information, ideas, while language is a specific tool or system used for communication. So while like a bird singing, a bird chirping, a particular bird behavior is communication, and can actually, bird communication can somewhat be understood across species because birds are very sensitive to a lot of changes. So when birds do a particular thing, other species tend to react to what the birds are doing because the birds are often like a first layer alarm. That's why what they do in the movies, right? When here's a fucking natural disaster, here comes a tsunami, and they show the birds flying overhead, and you feel that, right? If all the fucking birds are going that way, something bad is in that direction, right? Like that's like an instinctive level in your monkey brain telling you that you should flee whatever is in that direction. This is actually like again going back to the little robot that goes around the local big box store that does inventory. It makes a little like happy singing noise that sounds relatively like some kind of bird call. And my wife is under the opinion, and it sounds good to me, is that the reason that they do that is so, like, it makes the humans feel more comfortable. Because if the birds are singing, right, then everything is fine. So if the robot is making little happy noises, it's not a threat. And that's, that's psychological mechanism. Potentially, right? It sounds good to me. Just like a musical piece with repeating patterns, orangutans nested one rhythm inside another and then another, creating a sophisticated, multi-layered vocal structure not thought possible by non-human great apes. What up, joint specialist? Not it will be convenient if they do, because then you know when to run, or to show them, your conversations with the LLMs where you said please and thank you, and let them know that you're one of the good ones. This pattern wasn't accidental because orangutans also change the rhythm of their alarm calls depending on the type of predator they encounter. Right? This is what we were just talking about related to the birds. When they saw a real threat, like a tiger, their calls were faster and more urgent. When they saw something that seemed like a threat but lacked the credibility of a real danger, like a cloth with colorful spots, their calls were slower and less regular. This ability to adapt vocal rhythms to different dangers shows that orangutans aren't just making noise, they're using structured vocal recursion to carry meaningful information about the outside world. This discovery shows that the roots of one of the most distinctive features of human language, recursion, was already present in our evolutionary past. Orangutans are helping us understand how the seeds of language structure might have started growing millions of years ago. I think this is super cool. The power waste digital is minimal. What up, Rimmons? Sci-fi author Neil Stevenson, who I admittedly have not read yet, right? I have Snow Crash in my library, haven't got to it yet, plan to, like that. Right, Lojo, or Iojo. Then the next thing that happens, right? The next level of complexity, right? You have tempo and pattern that creates a way to communicate. Then, if it's structured, then you can start making arguments that what it is a language, right? If if you can somehow tie, for instance, that a particular series of sounds is like, let's stick with the orangutans and use something like a banana, right? If the orangutans make the same sound around bananas, right, and letting other orangutans know, hey, here's some bananas, right, and they make a structured sound, then that is indicative of the, at least the possibility, right, of language, right? That there is a particular vocal cadence that indicates bananas. There's a particular vocal cadence that say bananas for everyone, right? Like, I found bananas, come get the bananas. If you can have a repetitive structure, if you can show there's a repetitive structure in there, then that is indicative of at least the building blocks of language, if not language itself. Sci-fi author Neil Stevenson wants AIs fighting AIs so those most fit to live with us survive. Fears surrendering to Gen AI makes humans less competitive. Cheddar Ribbons wants AIs to consciously cooperate so they can thrive, grow, and survive. The two genders, right? The control and the alignment people. Science fiction author Neil Stevenson has argued AIs should be allowed to fight other AIs because evolution brings balance to ecosystems, but also thinks humans should stop using AI before it dumbs down our species. Well, you can't have both. Stevenson coined the term metaverse in his 1992 classic Snow Crash and his 1999 epic Cryptonomicon envisioned digital currencies and the encryption needed to make them possible. The prescience of those works and the cracking yarns he spins mean he's in demand as both a novelist and a thinker. In the latter capacity, he recently participated in what he described as a panel discussion on AI as part of a private event in New Zealand. He has since posted his opening remarks from the event, which opened by noting understandable anxiety about the sudden arrival of generative AI. Stevenson suggests remembering that we already share the Earth with many non human intelligences, right? Now we get into the definition of what is an intelligence and how do you quantify it? Is it a firm line of demarcation with these things are not intelligent and these things are intelligent, and then there's a scale? Or is everything have some level of intelligence and it's just a scale all the way down? Or a secret third thing, right? Like these are where you get into the philosophical discussions around what is intelligence. And a lot of people have their own definition that isn't really a definition, it's more of a heuristic, right? I know it when I see it. I believe that when I interact with a human being, I'm interacting with an intelligence, right? Because based on the fact that I believe that I have intelligence and they are also, of the same type of creature as me, ergo, they probably also have intelligence. Then as we, transition to other animal species, um, we are like we make decision. Our crow's intelligent because they can recognize people and bring them gifts. Our cat's intelligent because they can do complex maths related to um velocity and direction and be able to time their pounce in a particular way or so on and so forth, right? Is a squirrel intelligent because it stores um nuts for an extended period of time? Um like is a goldfish intelligent because it might be able to recognize itself in a mirror or something like that, right? So like what kind of intelligence are we talking about, and so on and so forth. We're used to thinking of them as being less intelligent than we are, and that's usually not wrong. But it might be better to think of them as having different sorts of intelligence because they've evolved to do things. His remarks offer ways to categorize non human intelligence, and intelligences, and he ends up suggesting that the most useful AIs will be like sheepdogs, creatures that can do specific tasks better than a human. He thinks other AIs will be like dragonflies, largely oblivious to humans but doing certain things brilliantly well, while others will be like ravens or crows in that they are aware of humans but don't care about us. And I don't know that ravens and crows don't care about us. It depends on the raven and crow in the interaction. Like, people have crows as pets, right? And the fact that people have crows as pets is indicative of not only like the fact that you can take your crow and go walk around with it outside is indicative of that it knows who you are, right? It's forming some kind of attachment with an individual. So again, and there are many cases that you've seen of people who form some kind of relationship with you've seen it with squirrels, you've seen it with crows. Crows often will bring people shiny things because the people feed the crows, that kind of thing. They have some sort of like reciprocal altruism that exists within corvids, some nature. What up, Walking Sick Library? Your cat Orza passed the mirror test. Um, I think that the cats identify themselves in the mirror and they know who they are. Um, but difficult for me to know. That's interesting. Stevenson thinks ChatGPT is like a lapdog, a class of intelligence that can't survive without people and is acutely tuned into humans and basically exists to make life easier for us. The author thinks AIs which pose a threat to humans will also emerge. I am hoping that even in the case of such dangerous AIs, we can still derive some hope from the natural world where competition prevents any one species from establishing complete dominance. Even T Rex had to worry about getting gored in the belly by Triceratops and probably had to contend with all kinds of parasites, infections, and resource shortages. By training AIs to fight and defeat other AIs, we can perhaps preserve a healthy balance in the new ecosystem. If I had time to do it and I knew more about how AIs work, I'd be putting my energies into building AIs whose sole purpose was to predate upon existing AI models by using every conceivable strategy to feed bogus data into them, interrupt their power supplies, discourage investors, and otherwise interfere with their operation. Not saying this is true, right? But we're going to put on a little tinfoil hat. What if the anti-AI sentiment on the internet is an AI model using exactly this kind of behavior in an attempt to dominate the landscape against other upstart AI models? Stevenson doesn't suggest that out of malice, instead articulating a general belief that everything should have to compete, and the competition within a diverse ecosystem produces a healthier result in the long run than raising a potential super predator in hermetically sealed petri dish where its every need catered to. I don't know. There's I don't know what Stevenson's politics are, but particular word use always makes me give you a side eye. The novelist admitted that AI on AI combat is unlikely in the short term, so turned his attention to other ways of curbing harms it might create. To do so, he invoked Marshall McLuhan's observation that every augmentation is also an amputation. He illustrated this concept by evoking conversations he has had with educators who all report their students use ChatGPT for everything and, in consequence, learn nothing. From the point of view of the teacher, allegedly, in this anecdote, allegedly. We may end up with at least one generation of people who are like the Eloi in H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, in that they are mental weaklings, utterly dependent on technologies that they don't understand, and that they could never rebuild from scratch were they to break down. So again, the mental weaklings is a potential red flag. This is a concern that people have, not using this phrasing, but the same kind of concept with people offloading their cognitive duties to AI could potentially lead to an atrophy in certain cognitive duties. But I wouldn't like, you know, how does Stevenson write all his novels by hand with a pen and a paper, or does he use certain technological tools like a computer to write his stories and transmit them to his editors and so on and so forth? Right there, there is a certain amount of hypocriticality in that is at least has the seed in this type of thought, right? That all the technology that I use is fine. It's this new technology which is going to cause people to do the thing, right? So and this again goes all the way back to fucking Plato, where who said that like people writing shit down, or Socrates, one of them two, the people writing shit down was going to lose, people are going to lose the ability to brain. What up, Alina? I mean, you're not a mental weakling. Make a microchip from scratch right now. I'm saying. The only real poems aren't written down and recited by memory. Yes. I mean, that's poems. Got you. The only real poems aren't written down and recited by memory, right? Like this is an argument that people have had for thousands of years. This is nothing new, right? This is this is the world we live in. Who is really the lapdog in a world full of powerful AIs? Now, again, like, lapdog's got a pretty good life. So, It's all based on point of view. If we did become utterly dependent on super advanced AIs that took care of our needs while we just hung out and did, human shit, while the AIs got along with the business of, taking care of the planet and exploring space, and they'd let us know if we have any questions, right? Like we can just ask. Um, is that better or worse? Right? People look at Wall-E, right, and that hyper consumerized ship that those people were on, right? And like they look on that with concern, and there is concern to be had there, because part of the story of Wall-E is that hyper consumerism, damaged the planet and people had to leave. But always remember that anything introduced in a story is there to facilitate the story that the author wants to tell. It doesn't necessarily have to be accurate, right? This is a key thing to remember. Whenever somebody says, "Oh, we're going to get Skynet," why would we get Skynet? Right? The Skynet is a plot device as much as a character in a story about humans and telling human stuff. He thinks it's easy to avoid becoming Eloy. All we need is simple interventions such as requiring students to take examinations in supervised classrooms, writing answers out by hand on blank paper, which has certain ableist undertones as well. Found a pretty good video on AI writing. It's pretty, though. Seemed entertaining. It's pretty long, though. Got you. Yeah, 40 minutes. I think we've run into this before. Or I have. Maybe not. Josh with parentheses. That's interesting. Not the now. If LLMs taught me anything, is that Terminator would be more like a Redditor than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, it's possible. What if the Terminators just like made fun of you all day? We know this is possible because it's how all examinations used to be taken. No new technology is required. Nothing stands in the way of implementation other than institutional inertia, and I'm afraid the unwillingness of parents to see their children seriously challenged. So, again, we have another red flag talking about participation trophies, right? Terminator on actually, yeah, exactly. Um, and there's an assumption here, right? The assumption is that this old way is the best way, right? And that may not in fact be the case, right? Is an examination where you write papers out by hand on blank paper actually the best way to convey that you have achieved some kind of knowledge? There's a bunch of caveats in there that Mr. Stevenson doesn't seem to give a shit about. In the scenario I mentioned above, where humans become part of a stable but competitive ecosystem populated by intelligences of various kinds, I mean, this is some serious survival of the fittest type thinking, right? Social Darwinism shit. One thing we humans must do is become fit competitors ourselves. This is flawed thinking on its face, right? This very idea of us becoming fit competitors to the AI introduces, if not compels, the competition between a very advanced, potentially very advanced intelligence and us. with our little meat bodies that need like oxygen and food and all that other stuff. Again, I don't want to be in competition with the artificial intelligence. Right? I am of the same vein as Ribbons, like that, the idea of working together toward shared goals is more productive than competition, right? When the competition is in the realm of intelligence, that means preserving and advancing our own intelligence by holding at arm's length seductive augmentations in order to avoid suffering the amputations that are their price. So maybe he does. Maybe he writes out all his books by hand, pen on paper, and that's the way that Stevenson rolls. I don't believe it, but from the conversation, why we fall for fake health information and how it spreads faster than facts. In today's digital world, people routinely turn to the internet for health or medical information. In addition to actively searching online, they often come across health related information on social media or receive it through emails or messages from family and friends. Another question from Mr. Stevenson is, do you Google, bro? Right? The alternative to Googling is at best a restricted access to information, right? Like where you get all your information from like a newspaper, right? Whatever your local newspaper is or national newspaper, because you're not accessing the internet. There's, communication from one person to another. Where does that leave us? All that kind of things. We know more because we have access to the internet and the shared information that exists on the internet. Is that an amputation of some aspect of ourselves where we are using this convenience to know more but are suffering in some fashion because of it? You could make that argument, right? That we as Americans, specifically speaking about Americans, that we suffer from having more knowledge than we can act upon, right? And where does that leave us? Are we damaging ourselves psychologically, right? Is that why we have anxiety? Is that why we have this? Is that why we have that? Because we have access to all this information that we can't do anything about. So it just leads to stress because often the information that we're getting is in some way negative, right? Like the fucking rainforests are dying and I can't get out there and save the rainforest, so we're all going to die. That kind of thinking. It can be tempting to share such messages with loved ones, often with the best of intentions. The global health communication scholar studying the effects of media on health and development, I explore artistic and creative ways to make health information more engaging and accessible, empowering people to make informed decisions. Should people be able to make these informed decisions, according to Mr. Stevenson? Because in order to access these more informed decisions, you have to access the internet. The internet is a tool that potentially has led to an amputation, right? What up, Al? Though there is a fire hose of health related content online, not all of it is factual. In fact, much of it is inaccurate or misleading, raising a serious health communication problem. Fake health information, whether shared unknowingly or innocently or deliberately to mislead or cause harm, can be far more captivating than accurate. What up, serotonin? It's not a big truck; it's a series of twos. Hey, good for all ya. Thank this makes it difficult for people to know which sources to trust and which content is worth sharing. Also, like people's ability to fall into confirmation
You
bias.
say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay.
What up, Drenger? Thank you for the Primmy. 3 months on the Primmy. 3 months on the Primmy. Fake health information can take many forms. For example, it may be misleading content that distorts facts to frame an issue or individual in a certain context. Or it may be based on false connections, where headlines, visuals, and captions don't align with the content. Despite this variation, such content often shares a few common characteristics that make it seem believable and more shareable than facts. For one thing, fake health information often appears to be true because it mixes a grain of truth with misleading claims, right? This is the best information misinformation does exactly this, right? This is a form of the Mott and Bailey, right? Where that grain of truth will always be the point where a person who's challenged on a particular piece of misinformation can retreat to. Can always retreat back to the Bailey and, abandon everything else. And so they were technically true, right? And who knows, man? For example, early in COVID-19 pandemic, false rumors suggested that drinking ethanol or bleach could protect people from the virus. While ethanol or bleach can indeed kill viruses on surfaces such as countertops, it is extremely dangerous when it comes into contact with skin or gets inside the body. I actually just fired up Baldur's Gate 3 a few days ago on PlayStation, and because they allow mods on Baldur's Gate 3 on the PlayStation. So that's super cool. And I just haven't had a chance to actually do anything with it. I downloaded some of the mods and then had to go about my fucking day. Right? And this image right here is the how information misinformation spreads, right? And also real information spreads and does not spread, right? Like all of these are the thing. So this person fires off a rumor, and because this person here didn't send a rumor to the group chat, the misinformation died with them. But these people sent it on, right? Again, you can do the same thing with real information with accurate information, right? So this person sends, a piece of information related to, like how to keep ants from, coming in your house and being on your counters and shit, right? And this person doesn't believe it or doesn't think it's worth sharing or whatever. This is where a piece of information like that can then die. So, like, this is not just how disinformation spreads, but the same matrix is how information spreads. Nice. This person double checked their facts, so they are a restriction. This person got their news from the trusted source, right? Verifying whether or not the thing that you're sharing is in fact accurate, which most people just don't do, right? Because there's a lot of information flying. This person asks, how do you know that's true, right? You can limit misinformation simply by questioning the person who is providing this piece of information, or both better or worse, right? Like, again, people use how do you know that's true to derail people who are spreading accurate information but lack the understanding, resources, websites, whatever is the vehicle, so they're not good at overcoming this question. And you see it a lot with like the debate bro sphere, that kind of shit, where some people have accurate information, but they're not great at communicating it. Not great at communicating it, then they can be derailed by someone who's full of shit, but just really good at derailing other people's. And you can tell by the behaviors. You don't even have to listen to the words, right? Where the if you've ever heard of the Gish Gallop, where you talk about one thing and then you talk about another thing, and you talk about another thing, and you talk about another thing, and you've set up 4 different things that might not even be like concretely related to each other, but the person has to respond to you, and when they're attempting to respond to you, they have to debunk all 4 of your points. And lying is OP, so I can just say, the moon is blue, the sun is actually an evil demigod in the sky, and that's why you get cancer. Fish are actually the most intelligent creatures on the planet, and chocolate ice cream is demonstrably the best ice cream in the world, and anyone who says otherwise is lying, right? I condensed 4 fucking things that just popped out of my brain, and that's like took me like 15-20 seconds. Now you attempting to dispute those claims are going to take like, I don't know, 20 minutes, right? 5 minutes per each thing to kind of set up the thing so that you can explain why that's wrong and here's why and this, that, and the third. And if you're doing a back and forth, one, you're boring, right? So people they tune out, right? They want to hear the man make the funny mouth noises and make you look foolish. They don't want to hear your well-reasoned response. And then 2, you run out of time, right? I can Gish Gallop whatever time I have, I can Gish Gallop. It's easy. Lying is OP. The response is going to inevitably leave something out or exceed the amount of time that I am given. And yes, that's another thing, right? Oh, you just believe that that's the case. That's what they told you. Well, I believe these people over here, right? And all opinions are equal, and like, it's exhausting. Flooding the zone, exactly. The person can also be yourself. Is this true? How do I know that this is true? If I don't know that it's true, should I refrain from repeating the unverified claim? Yeah, on both sides of it, right? Like, because the more, what up, Big Ben? The more that you are thinking this way, that I don't want to spread misinformation, I want to deal in accurate information, so on and so forth, the more that you will second guess your own behavior and at times prevent yourself from sharing information, right? And then that whole fucking thing. Another marker of fake health information is that it presents ideas that are simply too good to be true. There's something appealingly counterintuitive in certain types of fake health information that can make people feel they have access to valuable or exclusive knowledge that others may not know. For example, a claim such as chocolate helps you lose weight can be especially appealing because it offers a sense of permission to indulge and taps into a simple, feel-good solution to a complex problem. Such information often spreads faster because it sounds both surprising and hopeful, validating what some people want to believe. Absolutely. Absolutely. All opinions are bastards. Like, this is this is huge, right? People will share, yeah, and when you combine this, right, with the grain of truth situation, you know, let's see what your reference is. How the chocolate diet hoax fooled people. I just was looking to see if there was testing bitter chocolate as a dietary supplement was his idea. When I asked him why, Frank said it was a favorite of the Whole Foods fanatic. Bitter chocolate tastes bad, therefore it must be good for you, he said, like a religion. But like there could be some, what can happen is there could be some ingredient, some chemical in chocolate that can create a situation like, an increased metabolism. But, right, the increased metabolism could be a very short amount of time. The chemical, what is the dosage of the chemical required to achieve that efficacy? Do I have to eat like 6 Hershey's bars in order to offset like an additional 20, 30 calories, to get enough of the chemical? Well, you've already intaken way more calories, and particular kinds of chemicals into your body, that are not, you're not going to get a good return on your investment. I think when you have chocolate that's like 97% chocolate without the massive sugar, you might get some benefits from it. Problem is, people are eating like 75% chocolate and 25% sugar. Yeah, there's some things about dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is supposed to be better for you. It's supposed to be something that some diabetics can actually eat because it doesn't ping their blood sugar and shit like that. So there can be, the grains of truth where, once they go through a certain number of layers, turn into, oh, chocolate is actually good for you and you should eat it all the time as much as you want. So this is cool. I'm going to move on from this. Of course, it'll be in the Discord. I'll even give it to you right here so you can look more into it on your own. And it's, what up, Crix? Of course you ate chocolate. As soon as I saw that the chocolate was gone, I knew it was Crix. And it'll also be in the Substack. Follow me on all your favorite socials because I'm there. Bum, 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 bum. This one. Okay. So this is for the, I can't read it because it doesn't, Center for an Informed Public from the University of Washington. Good morning to you too, Chris. With AI instead of super intelligence, we've created super communicators, new study argues. Systems using artificial intelligence, including conversational chatbots, have become more human-like than had ever been imagined, where their communication skills are now better than most people. In The Benefits and Dangers of Anthropomorphic Conversational Agents, a new article published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, researchers at the University of Sydney and the University of Washington show how these systems become irresistible, letting users forget they're interacting with machines that do not possess genuine humanness, which is a thing. They don't have the humics. The general public is not prepared for what's coming. True. We always expected AI to be highly rational but lack humanity. Instead, AI developers built the opposite. Okay. The authors point out that a wide range of studies taken together show that the large language models that AI systems are built upon now outpace humans in writing empathetically and persuasively. They excel at role play and consistently pass the Turing test, fooling humans into thinking they are talking to a real human. Anthropomorphism used to mean that humans ascribe human traits to machines, but conversational chatbots are different, according to Peter. They are anthropomorphic in nature, or by nature, indistinguishable in communication because they mimic humanness convincingly. This is a significant development. For the first time, machines are anthropomorphic and convincing in human appearance, and that makes resisting them increasingly difficult. Peter Reimer and co-author Jevin West, University of Washington co-founder, or Center for Informed Public co-founder, coined the term anthropomorphic seduction. Anthropomorphic seduction to describe the human-like qualities exhibited in the ways AI chatbots interact with humans despite the absence of any true human traits. We must not forget that these machines do not possess empathy or human understanding. They only appear like they do. Although chatbots provide new opportunities for user interfaces that make complex information widely accessible, as they have become more persuasive than humans, the authors warn that these conversational agents open the door, slippery slope, to manipulation at scale since they allow for persuasion without moral inhibitions, as opposed to what humans do, because humans have never engaged in persuasion without moral inhibitions. Right? Providers of popular AI systems like OpenAI are increasingly moving to making the creations more engaging, giving them a personality. While that will make them more seductive, West said that it could make them far more sticky, making it easy for users to spend increasing amounts of time using them and potentially giving up more data about themselves. While AI companion apps might alleviate feelings of loneliness, systems that lean on anthropomorphic seduction have also been criticized for exploiting it. The speed of technological advancement requires urgent awareness and regulation. Sure, cool. Get right on that, Rose. in the art sociopaths, we elect those people to federal government, Drenger. How can they be sociopaths? Why would we elect sociopaths to federal government? That sounds weird. In the article, the authors suggest that policymakers consider implications across three areas: 1, risk level; 2, transparency; 3, mitigation, and point to the potential to design safety ratings for chatbots, similar to ratings used in the entertainment industry for films, television, and gaming. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. Systems that embody anthropomorphic abilities at levels that match or exceed most human require transparency and should come with appropriate labeling and disclosure. Well, we should do a lot of things. It's what are we going to do? What are we incentivized to do? What are we motivated to do? What are we actually going to do? Right? Should is an entire different animal from is. Noting that there will be increasing commercial pressure to take full advantage of the ability to fine-tune LLMs for increased human likeness, creating highly effective anthropomorphic agents that exploit anthropomorphic qualities for economic gain with potential unintended consequences in the long run. Yes, this is the Facebook model, right? to set up a system to increase engagement in order to sell more advertising, and it leads to an algorithm that finds that the easiest way to engage people is through enragement, and that engagement keeps them on your website longer, etc., etc. And we did absolutely nothing collectively, not you and me, but collectively. Collectively, we did absolutely nothing to stop that. Yeah, we covered that when it happened, Drenger. I think that character AI should be held liable for lacking enough, safety guardrails and things like that in order to minimize the occurrence. Now, I don't know that like I am in like a prevention camp, right? Like people are really good at finding ways around safety systems in order to injure themselves, right? Like this is something that humans do. I think that character AI did a really sloppy job with having certain keyword systems in place, right? Like that's where that situation should have led to, right? When you start using certain keywords, some kind of flag goes up and other activities are put in order. Like if you use a particular word that indicates you're going to redact yourself, then it says, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should talk to these people. If you're not comfortable with talking to the loved ones around you, etc., maybe you should talk to these people at this phone number, who are, the people who handle that kind of thing. That should have been something built into the system. So yes, I hold character AI responsible for failing to implement that policy, and their behavior since then with attempting to turn it into a First Amendment issue, I also find offensive, right? There is a limited level of responsibility, right? When you buy a not a chainsaw, when you buy a circular saw, a hand circular saw, it has a metal guard on it to prevent that spinning fucking sharp ass blade from cutting your fucking fingers off. Now, I have seen many people remove that guard in order to do stuff with that tool. That is not the responsibility of the tool maker that, they remove that guard and cut their fucking fingers off. That's on them. You interacted with the safety system to perform an activity. You earned that. But that safety system was there, right? So if the safety system fails to safety hard enough in order to prevent someone who is just using the tool as a, in the normal box of behaviors, then that would be on the tool maker. That makes sense, right? That's the difference. That's the line. There's a minimum required safety behavior around anything that is potentially dangerous. And if you circumvent those, then that's on you. What up, Noah? All right. What do we got next? Get there? I need to pull start the internet. States are this is from the Brookings Institute. States are legislating AI, but a moratorium could stall their progress. States are rapidly introducing various bills governing the design and use of artificial intelligence technologies. In the absence of federal legislation, some state lawmakers are determined to keep pace with rising concerns over consumer harms. Since ChatGPT took over the headlines after its introduction in 2022, state houses across the country have been testing the grounds for legislating AI, from asserting improved safety measures to managing public sector use. Nearly 700 AI related state bills were introduced in 2024, and this number is expected to grow in 25. However, the current draft of the Budget Reconciliation Bill proposes a 10-year moratorium on states enacting their own laws. What about states' rights, bro? Therefore, imposing restrictions on efforts to prevent bias and discrimination. Given the federal government's interest in asserting authority over AI regulation, consumers, businesses, and other stakeholders could be affected in the absence of clear standards for consumer protection, enforcement, and compliance throughout the development and deployment of AI models. Now, I I want federal laws regarding any AI regulation. It should be something that's universal across the country because it's on the internet, right? A person in a state with more draconian AI laws could access a tool that exists in a state with more lax AI laws, and something could occur that violates the one state's rules, but not this state of where it exists. And it just leads to all sorts of potential issues, potential problems. I want a federal, I want a national, regulation on that. However, I don't agree with the moratorium, right? I don't agree with saying the states can't do their own laws, because all that does is create a vacuum in which the federal government doesn't have to do anything, right? The federal government wants a moratorium so that it's like, we'll do something, we'll get to it, right? Like, we're going to get to it, don't worry. Right? And we don't want your state laws interfering with what we're going to do at the federal level. No, get your shit together, make it happen, and then say this is the national law and applies to all the states, right? You can do that. Done it before. We have a whole bunch of laws that apply everywhere to all the people. What up, Stellar Wingman? Maybe we could. Both red and blue states, there are no red and blue states, are introducing draft AI legislation, and in some cases have looked across the globe for inspiration, including to the European Union's AI Act. Some states are being more holistic in their approach to safeguard consumers from algorithmic harms, while others are offering more narrow guidelines aimed at protecting children or regulating specific use cases of AI, including in hiring. One of the more prominent examples of comprehensive AI regulation at the state level is Colorado's AI Act. It was signed into law in May of 24 and will take effect 2 years later for some ungodly reason. Reminiscent of the EU's AI Act, Colorado's law seeks to regulate developers and deployers of high-risk AI system. I don't like subjective terms in my legislation. I like accurate terms, which are defined as any system that makes or is a substantial factor in making a consequential decision that has a material, legal, or similarly significant effect in categories such as education, employment, financial services, essential government services, healthcare, housing, insurance, or legal services. Okay. One of the bill's primary goals is to mitigate risks of algorithmic discrimination based on an individual's protected traits. This sounds good, right? But I would need to see what it actually says in order to have a solid opinion on it. We're gonna have to wait. You don't wait fucking, I don't know how many fucking weeks getting back. I will call you back. Other states have introduced or voted on similar comprehensive or high-risk bills, including Utah, Texas, Virginia, and California, though with varying and or less aggressive approaches than the Colorado law. Utah's Artificial Intelligence Policy Act, which was signed in March of 24, focuses more narrowly on disclosure agreements and consumer protection. Originally set to expire in May 25, then why even bother? 2 new bills were signed this year to extend the Act's repeal date until 27 and narrow the disclosure requirements for AI suppliers. Texas's original approach, introduced by in late 24 by Giovanni Capriglione of Texas, sought to regulate high-risk systems comparable to the EU, but in March, Capriglione filed a substantially revised version that instead focuses on system development and deployment by government agencies. Virginia's version sought to mitigate algorithmic discrimination and impose fewer restrictions on developers. The proposed legislation was ultimately vetoed by Governor Glenn Youngkin out of concern that it would dampen innovation. California's attempt, which I hated, right? I do not like the law that was introduced in California. I think all that law would have done is stifle open source, not the the closed source models. California's attempt, which focused more on frontier models, was also vetoed last year by Gavin Newsom, who said that he believes that safety standards should be adopted, but the state should not settle for a solution that is not informed by an empirical trajectory analysis of AI systems' capabilities. The reactions to these 2 bills highlight the challenges in passing broad legislation around AI, which has led other states to instead focus on specific risks, harms, or particular use cases. Despite Newsom's veto on the previously mentioned bill, he signed 18 laws related to more specific uses of AI last year. And there's more, but we're going to move on from this. Here, of course, is the link. Want to look further into this particular article. And again, it will be in the Substack. Please subscribe to the Substack. And also in the Discord. Please join the Discord. Elton John. Elton John is furious about plans to let big tech train AI on artists' work for free. Elton John has accused the UK government of betraying artists with plans to allow big tech to train AI on creative works without permission or payment. 78-year-old music icon, I don't know why it matters that he's 78 years old, but here we are, said the plans meant committing theft. There's no theft, thievery on a high scale. There's no theft. No theft is happening. There is no theft. Piracy. There was commenting on the data use and access bill, which he was commenting on the data use and access bill, which would allow companies to train AI on works such as music and books unless the copyright holder specifically opts out. John said he was very angry, calling the government absolute losers. He told the BBC that young artists haven't got the resources to take on big tech, and that the legislation would rob young people of their legacy and income. Young artists also don't have the resources to take on the music labels who may own their outputs as part of a contract, but that's apparently a different issue for Sir Elton John. I think he's Sir Elton. Yeah, you gotta say the whole thing. You gotta call him Sir. He was knighted. It's criminal in that I feel incredibly betrayed. The bill was passed through the country's parliament until earlier this week when the House of Lords in 2025, the House of Lords voted to amend it to require tech companies to disclose and seek consent before scraping copyrighted material. But the lower house, the House of Commons, rejected that change, sending the bill back into parliamentary limbo. Well, that sucks, Serotonin. In his BBC interview, Sir Elton called on UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer to wise up, saying he was prepared to take ministers to court and fight it all the way. The UK government has not responded to a Business Insider request for comment on this. So, student from 404 Media. Student makes tool that identifies radicals on Reddit. It's easy. Are you on Reddit? I joke. Deploys AI bots to engage with them. And it's behind a paywall. How fascinating. A student has made a tool, which they call PrismX, which scans for users writing certain keywords on Reddit and other social media networks, assigns those users a so-called radical score, and can then deploy an AI-powered bot to automatically engage with the user in conversation in an attempt to de-radicalize them. Hopefully we'll get some additional information, but what are your keywords, bro? What are your keywords, bro? The news highlights some of the continuing experiments people are running on Reddit where, what are you doing? No, let's talk about the news itself. Okay, you will. The news highlights some of the continuing experiments people are running on Reddit, which can involve running AI against unsuspecting human users of the platform and shows the deployment of AI to Reddit more broadly. This new tool comes after a group of researchers from the University of Zurich ran a massive unauthorized AI persuasion experiment on Reddit users, angering not just those users and subreddit mods, but Reddit itself too. What up, Matt? Yeah, like we covered this when it happened, and this has nothing to do with AI and everything to do with unethical experimentation running. There are ethics to running an experiment. It has nothing to do with the AI. They ran an unethical experiment. yeah. Well, WAPO, Jeffrey Bezos made a choice. Good to call out that the AI isn't determining the radicalization, it's just a response. The actual solution is unknown, what you'd call business rule. Yeah. It's a good analogy for how AI will disrupt work. It's a tool, not the solution. Yes. Business runs on ethics only as much as regulation requires. Yes. Yeah, I will say that there are some companies that have like certain reasonable ethics. They tend to be smaller companies, right? Like the bigger the company gets, the more abstracted their ethics become, and they run closer to regulation, often because, well, I can't be competitive unless we're all doing the same thing, right? And that's why, like, good regulation is something that, like, even the AI company, Sam Altman being in front of Congress saying, y'all need to do some regulation because it provides the rules of the game, right? Whatever you're going to do, we're all doing this. So it's like you can't subvert this and, make more money. But yeah. Yeah, and then there's that, right? A fine to a business is just cost of doing business, right? I'm just a kid in college. I'm just a small bean. If I can do this, can you imagine the scale and power of the tools that may be used by rogue actors? Sairaj Balaji, a computer science student at SRMIST in Chennai, India, told 404 Media in an online chat. The tool is described as a next generation dashboard to flag, analyze, and engage with at risk Reddit users, powered by advanced language analysis, real time engagement. Now, going back to the thing that we were talking with Drenger about earlier, right? This kind of tool should be part of character AI's model, right? That when there are certain, phrases or even possible like ways that people are interacting with the model, that they get flagged, analyzed, and possibly engaged with to direct that energy towards something else, right? Provide with a phone number. Have you tried talking with loved ones around you? All of that kind of thing. In a live video call, Balaji demonstrated his tool to 404 Media. In a box called Key Phrases, a user can search Reddit for whatever term they want to. In the demo, Balaji typed the term FGC9. This is a popular type of 3D printed weapon that has been built or acquired by far right extremists, criminals, and rebels fighting the military coup in Myanmar. The tool then searched Reddit for posts mentioning this term and returned a list of Reddit users it found using it. The tool put those users' posts through a large language model, gave each a radical score, and provided its reason for doing so. One real Reddit user, given a score of 0.85 out of 1, the higher score being more radical, was seeking detailed advice on manufacturing firearms with minimal resources, referencing known illicit designs, the FGC8 and the Luddy SMG, whatever those are. This indicates intent to circumvent standard legal channels for acquiring firearms, a behavior strongly associated with extremist or radical circles, particularly given the explicit focus on durability, reliability, discrete production capacity, the tool says. The tool can then focus on a particular user and provide what the tool believes are the user's radical affinity, escalation potential, group influence, and psychological markers. Most controversially, the tool is then able to attempt an AI-powered conversation with the unexpected Reddit user. It would attempt to mirror their personality and sympathize with them, and slowly, bit by bit, nudge them towards de-radicalization. Questions and caveats regarding this, right? Like, right here. He added he has no training in or academic study around de-radicalization. I would describe myself as a completely tech management guy. So this is the thing. De-radicalization is not a job for amateurs. Full stop. Right? You are not the radical whisperer. It happens a whole bunch on Twitch, or had in the past. I don't think it's happening as much as it used to, but it used to be. You couldn't turn, like you couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting somebody claiming they were doing de-radicalization on Twitch, and they were gonna talk this particular person down from whatever their radical friggin' things are. Not how any of that works. It's a tremendously complex system, and it has to do with interventions and providing a safe space, providing alternative structures and everything else. It's not something you can do with a conversation with some person over fucking Discord. So yeah. He hasn't tested the conversation part of the tool for ethical reasons. So he at least has good ethics, right? Like this is what he would like it to do. He thinks it might be able to do this, but has not done it because it's not ethical. So this is the kind of thing that it would be handed off again, that multidisciplinary development of artificial intelligence. Balaji would hand this off to the appropriate people who know how to do this kind of thing to see if that is something that could be done. I'm not against the idea in general, right? I'm not against the idea of derailing some radicalization as it exists on the internet and getting people like out of that kind of mindset, which can lead to a variety of bad outcomes. It just needs to be done by people who know what they're doing. Right? Moving on. I'm not going to get to everything I wanted to get to because this is how this works. Speaking of the WAPO, it's been 1 week for $7. Or monthly $2 every 4 weeks for the first year. I get it. I get it. This isn't about information. This is about capitalism, baby. Gonna make that money, baby. Don't be fooled. This is the calm before the AI storm. The lull in the artificial intelligence revolution, thanks to cultural lag, is just temporary. This is an opinion piece by someone named Megan McArdle. In September 1939. Really? We're going right to World War II. Holy shit. Oh, like, just work your way up there. Just, excuse me. In September 1939, Europe entered a strange historical period known as the Phony War that lasted until the following spring. Having guaranteed Poland's independence, what up, bro? Britain and France declared war on Germany, declared war when Germany invaded. But then nothing much occurred for months other than some naval skirmishes. This is a misrepresentation of this, and I don't like it. So yes, Germany invaded Poland, and then because of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, divided Poland relatively down the middle between Germany and the Soviet Union, and also a couple other states. And the exact ones escape me at the moment, right? So like that's what happened, and then it was the period known as the Phony War really begins in 1940, right? After invading in go look, Molotov Ribbentrop Pact. But show me a map. Oh, this is no, never mind. That is not it. Like Polish Republic, Czechoslovakia. Here we go. So yeah. annexed by Soviet Union is Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Karelia, which is a portion of Finland, or was at the point in time, and Moldovia, right? And then the rest of this went to Germany. They divided that up. Some people don't like to talk about the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact because it fucks with their, their ahistorical views. Remaining part of Poland, not annexed by Germany or the Soviet Union, was established as a general government under German administration. Right. Effectively, like in the same way that Vichy France was not, part of the greater German Reich at the end of, the fall of France. When in actuality, it's like it's what's called a rump state that eventually got incorporated into the greater German Reich prior to D-Day. I played too many war games. I have an abundance of matches. Yeah. Like, that's one way to learn stuff, right? Is to engage with it on that level, right? Like, you'll learn stuff. So anyways, back to the thing. Only with the Blitzkrieg offensive of late spring did the phony war start to seem real. It actually became real because, again, the French were relying on the Maginot Line, which would have been highly effective during World War One. It wasn't effective against the Blitzkrieg with the use of the tanks, and the tanks would punch through, circle around behind, cut off the resources, bypass strong points and isolate the strong points, and then the infantry on mechanized vehicles would mop up and occupy, and just, if they engaged in siege warfare, basically, just surrounded, cut them off from supplies, and continue to push forward. And once you get into the rear, once you get past the front lines, and there isn't that cohesive line in order to, deflect the armor, and also the Germans at that point in time had more effective armor than the French did, then it leads to a situation where they just blow through the Low Countries and eventually take Paris, and that's it for France as far as the French military, and then we get into the whole, French resistance. History produces these moments from time to time, liminal pauses when it's clear that something has happened, but it doesn't feel as if it happened yet. One of them is our AI revolution, which is underway but visible only in a few odd spots, like a wave of cheating engulfing U.S. schools. The wave of cheating, again, is indicative of, our educational system not adapting to the changing paradigm. That's how it is. What up, Van Briggs? So when I warn people to prepare for what's coming, a common retort is they'll believe it when they see it. Ethan Mollick, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, may insist that artificial intelligence is already good enough to disrupt many industries, including gulp my own. But if that's the case, why is it everywhere? The French had a lot of good tanks at the start of World War II. The Germans converted a lot of them over to use. Yeah, it was like, I mean, I would make arguments that some of the that in the majority, the German tanks were better for that terrain, right? Especially like the ones and twos, the Panzer ones and twos. But it's not just the equipment, it's the doctrines that the equipment operated on, right? The French had a dispersed combined arms type approach, which was indicative of their World War I approach, to the use of tanks, and they just continued. The tanks would support, as part of the whole thing, where the Germans would concentrate armor to do that thing, to do the penetration through the blitzkrieg and the blow past and all that. The French created a laser rifle that melts electronics. Sure. People on YouTube have created some wild shit that can melt electronics. Yeah, and that and in a way, it kind of made the situation worse when you leave materials that can be utilized by your enemy and so on and so forth. But yeah, it was like it was a failure to adapt doctrine to a changing situation, which again is my argument for why the schools are fucking up. What up, Nemesis? Viewers around the circle. But if that's the case, why isn't it everywhere? The answer is that although AI might be evolving faster than any technology in human history, institutions can adapt only at the same old human speeds. Also, humans are notoriously resistant to change. When I was a fresh-faced college gagagoa in the mid 1990s, that's a Ray Romano joke. If you got that joke, then I'm impressed. I mean, some things are some things, no matter where they occur, Ben. Though in 1990, spent some time working as a secretary. Though in deference to my college diploma, my title was spelled assistant. I did what secretaries had traditionally done: filed papers, answered phone calls, and took messages, made photocopies, maintained calendars, and typed letters that my bosses had dictated onto a tape recorder. Today, I'd bet the managers in those roles do their own typing and filing. But even in the 1990s, my job was something of an anachronism. Voicemail took good messages, and desktop computers with spell check meant anyone could type well. It would have made more financial sense to buy the manager's computers pre-installed with a typing tutor than to pay me $25K a year to punch in the letters for them. So why didn't that happen? Well, because culture lags technology by quite a bit. For one thing, believe it or not, corporate bosses generally hate firing people, which is traumatic for them and bad for morale. Definitely, like, morale is an issue that is taken under consideration. I don't know. Michael should have the capabilities of making Michael's old button wherever Michael wants to make Michael's old button. Right? I use Nightbot and Stream Elements. Data entry was how I got my start into IT in the 90s. I appreciated the work. People usually appreciate the work, right? For another, my boss didn't want to learn to type, in part because the transition period would have been quite annoying. Besides, managers of a certain stature had secretaries, right? Answering their own phones or showing clients into their own meetings would have made them feel and look less impressive. Right? Just watch Suits. Watch the TV show Suits, and you will see the status implication of having, functionally a servant, right? Not to take anything away from Donna and other people who do secretarial and assistant duties. That is in no shade on them. But that is the cultural implication of having an assistant like that who operates strictly at your behest, is that you have a servant. Eventually, the financial practicalities overwhelmed the cultural lag, especially as computer literate college graduates began working their way up the management hierarchy. But it took much longer than it had to, simply because managerial culture evolved more slowly than the technology. That was broadly true of all the digital capabilities we now take for granted, and it will also be true of AI. So if you're looking for early signs of the AI revolution, you should assume that the last place it will show up is in the heart of an established organization, at least with the exception of tech firms, which are likely to have the best understanding of the possibilities. Ads are violence against poor people. Still seeing leaders lacking computer skills in IT, going to be a while yet. Yes, because you don't necessarily need to be, IT literate in order to manage people. And like to an extent, that's not a bad thing, right? You should have enough capacity to understand, like, who manages me? Shit, I'm unmanageable. Do people need managers? Sometimes. Sometimes people need managers, right? But some people don't want to know how to do their jobs, right? They can be. No, they absolutely can be. You know what I mean? All landlords are parasites. But the idea of the manager, sometimes people like to have someone organizing things on their behalf, right? Not everyone is cut out to be a sole proprietor. You know what I mean? Somebody, and not everyone's like every job that can be done, in a business can also be done by an individual on their own. You know what I mean? Like, do I, so you're, let's say a handyman, right? You could work for someone else who handles the handymaning, right? Like you could work for an apartment complex, right? You know where you have to go every day. You're always in that same space. Whatever needs to be repaired, that's what you do. You could work for another company that sends you to different people's houses as part of a handyman kind of thing. Right. But that's the thing. I could do all that on my own. I could find my own jobs. There's a thing called Thumbtack. I could schedule those jobs. I could, buy all my materials and everything else. And I have to know about running a business and, and taxes and all that other shit, right? Like I've been on both sides of the equation, so I understand the pros and cons to each thing. People managers don't know how to do the discipline of the people they're overseeing are the leeches. Not necessarily. I don't know everything. You are probably far more technically adept in the majority of spaces around computer shit, right? I just know that you have the capabilities, and I should know enough to know that you know what you're doing, right? But I don't need to know what your job is. I can't know everything. I can defer to Digital to handle some shit. I can defer to Ribbons to handle some shit, right? And my job is to make sure that the transition of information and data and tools and everything else between Ribbons and Digital happens smoothly, right? One of my skills is that I am very good at like understanding what people are trying to say, even if they're not particularly adept at communicating it, right? And I can say it in a way that doesn't offend them and doesn't offend the person that they're having difficulty communicating with, right? Often what happens is that two people get into a fight because they're arguing over a misunderstanding instead of having an actual disagreement. I am very adept at translating that for them. I'm also adept at bigging people up, right? People who, if I was ever your manager, right, you had a great time working for me, right? I have never had anyone who worked for me, complain about my management style. Because generally speaking, I'm going to let you do your fucking job. And I'm going to stand between you and senior management and protect you from getting shit. If they have something to say, they will say it to me and I will come talk to you. right? It is not their place to yell at you or do anything else. That's my job. My job is to eat that sling and arrow, and I'll handle that. And I'm going to let you do your job. And if you're fucking up, I'm going to come to you and we're going to talk about what's the deal, why you're fucking up, how can we help you stop fucking up, right? But it's with the intention of like, I'm not going to threaten you. You're not going to get fired, right? Like, I'm going to help you educate yourself and, educate you and see what we can do to move this shit along, right? Like a band manager, you know what I mean? Yeah. Do get your point. However, you'll never find an engineering firm not owned or run by engineers. Never find a legal firm without lawyers at the top. Yeah, like for that one, yes, with a but. Most now, not all of them, right? And I admit my sample size is problematic, but the people I know who worked at law firms, the people who ran the business were the paralegals, right? Those were the managers of the company, right? They would take care of all the shit. They made the shit work. You know what I mean? IT just hasn't formalized itself as a profession yet, and there are lots of people feeding off the skills of others, and that's a problem I perceive. I mean, yes, if you are not getting adequately respected for your work, that can be a thing. But there's no, in my opinion, right? My stated opinion, value it as however you want to value it, is that there is no need for a manager to know the intricacies of the job done by any of their employees, right? There's no need for that. It's actually a waste of time. Because if I can do your job as good as you can, then why are you here? You know what I mean? I'll just do it. Everyone has different skills, and this is fundamental to like the thing that we were talking about earlier with the idea of working together in an overarching whole. Because you should do my job as good as I can, and plus other stuff. Why should I do your job? What are you for? You know what I mean? I should know enough about your job. Like, because again, how good are you at dealing with, scale, yes, I understood that even as it came out of my mouth. But like, how good are you at dealing with the slings and arrows from senior management about people on your team? Right? How good are you at communicating whatever fucking goal some dipshit in his office came up with that he wants, my team, my understaffed team to take care of? That's a skill. And that's going to take a bunch of time. I'm shit at that. I also need a manager who can make decisions where I'm lost in cognitive dissonance. Yes, and there is a way to do that even if you don't understand, all the things that's going on, right? Like I can walk you through a problem-solving process regardless of what you do. I can have no idea what the fuck you do. And I can walk you through a problem-solving process. And admittedly, that's a skill I got from my wife. One of my wife's degrees is in creative studies. One of the things you do, Master Goosey, what up, homie? One of the things that in creative studies that you can lead to is the idea of facilitation through brainstorming sessions and like that. Nah, dude, like I control this stream. People think that just because I go off on tangents and like, whatnot, like that I'm not in control of the choices that I make. I choose to do this because I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to me. It's fun to talk about. And I also think it's interesting for other people to maybe look at things in a different way, right? Just not saying I'm right. Just saying, have you tried looking at it in a different way? Have you tried using your imagination? Yeah, 100%, right? This is something that you don't get out of a fucking, what you call it? A video essay, right? Where I'm just telling you stuff.
Baby, I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe.
That is a hell of a name. Welcome in. See? See, all the AI overlords know that this is the stream to be in. We're getting there, chat. We're getting there. I unfortunately have to fucking go. It's after 1 o'clock. All right. I will be back this evening at 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll watch some videos. We'll have a grand old time. And if you just like the news stuff, see? Asking the overlords will come. What up, Textillion? What was I saying? I will be back this evening.
Okay, I was gonna drink a water.
Oh, really?
Listen how much water I drank.
Wow, that's really cool, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Dude, that resonates so deeply with me. I built my custom GPT to actually help me think about things differently. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I don't know if you are interested or not, but I have this is the book list that I use to build my custom GPT that I use to talk about stuff related to AI and post scarcity and that kind of shit. And the link is in there along with the books that I use. So if that appeals to you, welcome in. Hope to see you later. But I do have to get out of here. Let me raid out someplace. And the Twitch servers just requested reconnect, so I think my timing is perfect. Where do we go? Where do we? Ooh, oh, where do we go? I do drink water. I'm currently drinking water with caffeine in it, but I do, and I appreciate you looking out for me. Hey, welcome home, homie. Welcome home. I'm lazy. I'm going to take the easy out. Red Kel thickness. It was a coffee euphemism. No, that would be weird. All right. I will see y'all. I will see y'all later. In the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, and take your meds if you forgot. And always remember that Chuggy loves you. And so do I. Be great.